In today's episode, we'll use our homemade flocking to make these decorative trees that can be used as forest scatter terrain. So our main item today is going to be this. This is a plastic tree sprig that I found on Amazon, and I picked these up because once the branches are kind of fluffed out a little bit, they're predominantly round, making them a perfect little instantaneous tree. So we're going to do a couple things to this to make them a little bit more filled out, but predominantly there's not much to this build. We're just going to fluff out our branches until we have the rough shape that we want, and in some cases we can press them down. Like the top of the tree is a little bit more spread out automatically. Just for whatever reason, that's how the sculpt on these comes out. So I flatten those down a little bit and then fluff out the branches towards the bottom. Then I took them outside and I gave them a base coat in some flat brown. This is just going to hide any of the plastic color if any of the flocking comes off. So now I'm going to take it outside and use some of this. This is Eileen's Tacky Glue Spray. It is pretty convenient for this kind of thing. So I'm just going to take the branch and, sprig, and just do a pretty decent coating on all the sides. Now you can see the spray comes out in kind of this little stream, so I'm just getting it on the tree as much as possible. Alright, now that we're back inside, I'm going to cover all of the branches with our homemade flock that we made in a previous episode. Now once the first coat was done, I took it back outside, sprayed it down again with some more glue, and then brought it back in for a second coating, and you can see that it fills out the branches a lot nicer, but I wanted it just a little bit more filled out, so I did one final coating. And then I will coat everything with a watered down PVA just to keep anything from falling off, and then I'll finish it off with a clear coat of some clear flat sealant spray. Alright, while all of that is drying, let's go ahead and make our bases. So for this, I found these at the dollar store. These are kind of like poker chips. You can find them in the games and toys section. And I'm going to use these to kind of create a couple of little irregular shaped bases. Now they're cheap and simple plastic, so we're going to cut a couple of them up in half, and this is just going to keep the whole thing from wobbling. As you can see on the bottom side here, we're going to kind of keep everything a little level and just hot glue everything together pretty quickly. Then using some of these little white stones, also something that I found at the Dollar Tree, I'm going to just glue them on in a couple of little places just to kind of give a little bit of extra texture to the base, to kind of make it appear as though it's a forested section of the area or wherever it is that you want the trees to be. I kind of wanted a nice rocky area, so that's what I'm going for. And all of these stones will also help make it a little bit more base heavy and prevent the trees from tipping over. Now I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue. You can also use foam or some kind of clay to create a little bit of variation in the layering and elevation around the rocks, just that it's not all perfectly flat. Now that the stones are attached and we've created our uneven surface, we're going to mix up some texture paste. Now this is pretty easy to do. I just took some just generic sand. I get it from Lowe's for like $10 for a 50-pound bag. It's a huge amount of sand. And I'm just mixing a little bit of it together with some Mod Podge until I get the rough consistency that I want. I want a little bit of runniness to this, but not so much that it's going to spill off the bases once I apply it. That looks pretty good. So now we can take one of our bases and then pour some of it on, and then using a stick, I'm just going to spread it around and cover the desired area. Now, because the paste is just sand and glue, once this dries, it's going to be very, very solid and it is not going to come off. But it's also very important to spread it out to the desired thickness, because once it dries, you will never be able to change how it's shaped. So if you want it thin, spread it thin. If you want it thick, spread it thick, but make sure that's what you want, because once it dries, you're never going to be able to change it. Now, once all the paste is applied, I'm going to let them sit for about an hour just to let all the glue fully dry and all of the texture paste cure. Once it was all dried, I took it outside and gave it a coating in some flat brown Krylon spray paint, and then did a pretty healthy overbrush with some neutral gray over all of the top. Now this is just going to give a nice little base coloration for all of the stones and all of the ground texture. Now using some burnt umber, I paint over all of the sand, and this is going to give it a nice kind of dirt and mud based coloration. Now that goes on a little light over the neutral gray, so I'm going to do 2 coats, one on camera, one off camera. Once that was done, I used some Artist Loft Gray to paint over all of the rocky stones. Now I want a nice deep gray for this coloration, so I'm going to do 2 coats over this as well. Once that was done, I grabbed some raw sienna and I do a light dry brush over the entire base. This will make the ground texture look a little bit more like dirt instead of mud, and give a nice earthy appearance to all of the stones. Then using a little bit of neutral gray, I do another dry brush over the entire base, focusing more heavily on the stones than the dirt. This will pick out a little bit more of the stone's highlights, giving them a nice rocky appearance, but also still let some of those brownish colors show through from the raw sienna dry brush. And finally, to give the ground texture a little bit more of a different color than the stones, I do a dry brush over just the dirt with some unbleached titanium. Alright, now that the bases are done, let's go ahead and assemble the whole piece together. So starting off, we're going to pick out where we want our trees, and then using a drill bit, I'm just going to drill a couple of holes. Depending on the size of the base is going to depend on how many trees I put on them. This is the largest base I made, so I'm going to put 3 trees. Now, be a lot smarter than I was. Don't hold it while drilling. You don't want to accidentally poke your hand with the drill. Set it down on the table, like I realized I should be doing, and then drill it from there. Now, the bases can get a little spongy depending on what you use to make the elevations, but once you've drilled the holes, make sure that they are clear. I'm just going to push a stick through just to make sure that there's nothing to catch on the trees once I insert them. And it looks like this final hole didn't quite go all the way through, so that's just a quick little fix. Okay, so now we can take our trees and attach them with a little bit of hot glue. Now I'm putting the glue on top and then pressing the trees down through the hole. Use a little bit of caution with this, not because the glue is hot, but because if you have too long of a stem, it will push all the glue through and not hold onto the tree. So if need be, pull the tree back out, clip the stem shorter, apply a little bit of extra glue, and then try again. And then using a pair of clippers, I cut the stems to be flush with the bottom of the base. And here we go. I made a few different varieties of these, and I think they came out pretty good. Alright, that is going to be it for today, and as you can see, they look really nice in kind of a little foresty setting. You can use these just to add a little bit of extra decoration to the table, but also use them for line of sight blocking and tactical terrain play. So thank you everyone for watching. Please hit that like button, subscribe for future content, comment down in the comments section, let me know how I'm doing, let me know if you enjoyed, and I will see everyone next episode.